Question, actually. Who's actually from Berkeley? Do we have any Berkeley folks here? Okay, actually, I was not. I was actually expecting to be mostly Berkeley. But I'm actually a Berkeley grad, so it's actually fun to be back in the old stomping grounds. So I'll be talking about something called vibes investigating and investigation automation, or agentic automation. But it's kind of fun being back here because rewind about maybe 10, 15 years ago when I was here, we were working on something called program synthesis with this crazy idea that maybe computers could write our programs for us. And then also GPUs for machine learning, that maybe if we could run them on better hardware, we could do more stuff. So it's kind of just fun to be back, and then all of a sudden, from in terms of things that are important in industry, in the world, in science, to actually see things that happen at Berkeley do matter a little bit. So it's nice to be back. So with all that, over the last 10 years, I work on problems like, I don't know, like cyber warfare, voter manipulation, billion-dollar lawsuits, human trafficking. So a lot of these kind of pretty core societal, data-intensive things that they're not. It's kind of like you kind of see it on TV, but nobody really knows what's going on unless you're kind of deep in the industry. And so I want to kind of give you a feel for a bit about, as we're tackling these societal problems, like how Gen AI is kind of changing what we're doing. So I think most folks are, just by being here, familiar with Vibes coding, companies like Cursor, historic fastest time to, like all sorts of stats, $100 million revenue, numbers of users, all that kind of stuff. And what I find interesting is if you think about kind of what makes Vibes coding hard, there are multiple things. But one of them, for example, is like if you have a small toy demo repo with 1,000 lines of code, or like an enterprisey one with 1 million lines of code. You're trying to build an AI that helps a developer work with that and iterate with that. When I talk about something like Vibes investigating, I don't actually, I care about code, I care about queries, all that stuff, but 1 million is actually a very small number to me. I care about, I have like a gigabyte of data, a terabyte of data, a petabyte of data, depending on the size of a customer I'm working with. And so when I'm doing my agent stuff, I have to kind of really scale up what we do. And so, and another view of that that's kind of interesting to me is to me it's actually kind of like this other side of the same coin, where you might talk about I don't know, like 20 million developers, but a lot of them are like hobbyists or kind of imagine PHP folks, stuff like that. It's interesting if you look out when you talk about what I call like Vibes investigators, you might have something like maybe 1 million heavy security analysts. This might be the SOC, incident response, threat hunts, threat intelligence. There's just like a lot of these little fun things, red team, blue team, all that. And then you go down the hall, and then you have the networking people or the IT people, and you actually, it's almost like one-to-one. And these are the people who are really heavy. And then if you go further down the hall, you might have the forensic accountant or these other people who go really deep, like logistics. Imagine you're looking at sanction violations and supply chain risk. And then for each one of those are the people who are really deep, just staring at logs all day. But then for each one of those, you might have 5 or 10 people who just kind of do it. Like you're a developer, we talk about Vibes coding from a perspective of just iterating on your own laptop, but as soon as it goes to production, you're now responsible for it. And so I'm talking about all those people, all those tasks. And honestly, this is what I kind of call this burnout territory. This is not fun. It's fun to make a Vibes coding app. It's not really fun to ship it and be responsible for it. So that's what I'm talking about. And it could get very serious very quickly. And to give you a sense of this, in parallel to literally while I'm here right now, my team is at Black Hat in Vegas. We're training about 100 or 200 people, hackers, both hackers and defenders, to actually do what I'm going to be talking about to you today. It's literally right now. So I was actually on the fence if I should even be here right now. But Berkeley, so. Okay, so continuing the analogy, I do want to give folks this feel for Vibes investigating. I gave you the sense of data sets. There's one difference. Another perspective I find interesting is often for coding, you just kind of want it to work. With investigations, often I don't even care about the work. I care about the results, the insight, and I actually want to turn over all the stones. And so I don't even want to just kind of make one path through my thing. I don't want to just get it to run and have it look cool. I need to make sure that I didn't, leave your bank account or your hospital or whatever kind of uncovered because I missed something. So it's a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences, and makes it really interesting. So I want to give a little examples of as we go from investigating to automating. So here we're looking at Louie, two little sample programs that are from a more vibesy perspective. Hey Louie, get 100 events from Splunk Red Team and draw a graph about how the red teamers are doing things. For regular analysts, this might take them a lot of time, but now in the Vibes era, they can just kind of roll along. And so that's really nice. And so this is, we think about like human augmentation. Could I do 10 times more things? And it's not necessarily easy. Like some of the techniques I think folks who do agentic stuff understand, but all of a sudden we're not actually really passing around text. What I'm actually trying to pass around is like, 10, like a gigabyte of logs. That's actually what goes from step to step or turn to turn. And we'll have to kind of do analytic stuff. So there's a lot of interesting things here. We don't have time to talk about it. Come to me after, and we can talk technical stuff there. But as kind of like how you might talk about the Vibes view of just multiplying how much work an analyst can do, the automation perspective is, could we just do fewer things because the automation just takes care of it. And so we're kind of basically building like a learning system and an automating system. So instead of the analysts helping themselves, we're helping the analysts build automation so they can go and do something else. And I want to give one really interesting case study to us. Is I got really tired of all the vendors saying that they just have really great benchmarks. So they come up with some benchmark, and academics honestly do this all the time. They have some cool algorithm. They come up with some benchmark to show the algorithm works. And then, but you're like, well, does it actually work? And so what we decided to do is like take a page out of OpenAI's book when they kind of came out and said like, look, the bar exam, the medical boards, could we do the things that the actual professionals do, and could we at least be competitive? And so what we started doing this year is just one by one going to all the big cybersecurity investigation competitions and putting Louie into the challenge. So earlier this year, these results are old. We're actually doing even better now. Boss of the SOC, you'll get teams of 4 or 5 folks. They'll spend like 1 or 2 days, imagine like 20, 30 hours of analyst effort. We cut that down to like about 1 hour of just Louie doing stuff. And they're kind of difficulty tiers, which is also kind of interesting. So the 200 tier, we were actually able to get about 100% of them. Actually, exactly 100%. There was no more to solve. And on the old results for the kind of the second tier of them, so if you think of like SOC versus incident response, if you're in the community, back then we were able to do about half of them. We're actually able to do more now. And so I like to think, again, come talk to me after to really unravel this one. To me, an agent is worth about 100 different Python automations, just in terms of the breadth and depth that that world could do. And then there's just kind of transformational things we could do with security teams here. So I covered a lot of ground. Like I'm doing very high level references here. So again, come talk to me after a few things. First of all, I have some stickers. I actually forgot a lot of them, but I do have some stickers. We are also looking for some interns to kind of do some cool cyber stuff, and if you want to compete. But some things I actually do feel passionate about is, again, like I'm tired of vendor benchmarks and academic benchmarks that don't reflect. When I work with like a 3-letter agency or a military, I can't. The problems are just too real. That I think doing real benchmarks is important, and it's how we move forward as a field. I think questions like theorem proving and what's the duality of like a theorem proving and an investigation. I think there's really deep math that we can now tackle now that we have synthesis. Likewise, like as mentioned with the black hat, we're actually starting to open stuff up. So whether you're an individual or you're a government agency, we're actually starting to go to market with this stuff and just trying to get it all around. So sign up for that as well. So again, anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this peek into what millions of people who do serious stuff, but maybe you don't get to see what they actually do. Hopefully this gives you a sense of like the potential of Gen AI for that stuff. And if you're interested in those problems, just come up to me after. All right, thank you.